wrestled George South.
George South showing a lot of energy. Looks like he's feeling good. John Skyler, very reserved. You look at his body language.
And what's so crazy is George South in phenomenal shape.
Phenomenal shape. In better shape than he was 20 or 30 years ago.
And what's so funny is everybody, they look at him and they're like, no, he's not. Oh, yeah. Watch some of his matches, man. He goes back through the curtain at the end. He's hardly breathing hard in some cases.
When you have that, and you run a wrestling school, Josh, you can attest to this. When you have that in-ring cardio,
yep.
There's no match in that. The Stairmaster, some guys run, some guys swim. Nothing matches having great in-ring cardio.
You can run on a treadmill for an hour at 6, 7, 8 miles an hour steady and be able to do that no sweat. 2 minutes in a wrestling ring, you're done.
Imagine wrestling for an hour. And I dare say, matter of fact, I will say, I believe George South has probably wrestled more hour-long matches than anyone else who is an active wrestler today. I can't think of anyone else who is still active today that would have more hour-long matches under their belt than George South has.
And there we go. The bell is sounded. We are official. And referee Ben Grayson's already starting to count, letting John Skyler know he's the sheriff in the squared circle tonight.
Yeah, one theme that I think will come up a lot in this match is control. Both these men like to control their environment. Both these men like to set the pace in their matches. Man, John Skyler just said, you worry about me. Both these men like to wrestle their own pace, like to set the pace for the match. I really think that's going to be the struggle here. We see George every month, no matter who you are or where you come from. George South is a genius at making you wrestle his match.
Yeah, George South has a way of getting in your mind and making you second guess yourself and either get this crowd to love him or hate him. Either way,
they do not like John Skyler, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I would say that this is definitely a home game for George South. John Skyler, his introduction to the AML Wrestling faithful was not on the best of terms a few months ago with him and Colby Carino just destroying George.
Busted George wide open a couple months ago in Kernersville. We saw John Skyler again last month. This is the first official match for John Skyler in an AML wrestling ring, but not his first time wrestling in this arena. John Skyler, a WrestleCade veteran in this arena, has faced
Skylercade.
Absolutely, has faced the likes of Andrew Everett, Hurricane Helms, of course, Mr. Number One, George South, a WrestleCade veteran since day one in this arena. George South has wrestled the likes of Jerry the King Lawler and even the Great Muda.
Yeah, there is a very fantastic photo of Muda misting George South on a lot of our social media, which of course obviously you can follow: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc.
Shout out to my close personal longtime friend Sarah for that photo.
Oh yes, Sarah, very nice, very nice.
Again, both men, another lockup. I really think that's going to be one of the themes in this matchup is who can exercise their control over the opponent. Both these men are methodical. Both these men are thinking man's wrestlers.
This is going to be a change of pace compared to the first match, for sure.
Positively.
But it is not a get up and go to the bathroom match.
No, maybe the most anticipated match. Oh, another strong lockup. Maybe the most anticipated match of the night for a lot of people. I want to thank our old friend Mike Mooneyham, who published a great piece in the Charleston Post-Courier earlier this week, talking about the differences between the two men and the ways that they are similar. He was very astute. He pointed out they are very similarly minded in their philosophies about pro wrestling, but not in how they go about pro wrestling.
Yeah, very, very nicely put, because I was just getting ready to say, but I couldn't quite put it in words, and that says it exactly as John Skyler attempts to call timeout
That's a head game. You know as well as anybody, Josh, that's a head game. That's trying to control the pace. That's trying to slow down any momentum that George can muster.
Buddy, I keep writing to the athletic commission, trying to make that an official rule that everybody has to follow. You get 3 timeouts.
George will not be thrown off his game.
Woo! Big shoulder tackle from the longtime veteran.
Mr. Number 1 marches across the ring. Catches a hip toss and a huge slam. Missed the elbow.
Yep, nobody home.
Mr. Number 1 back to his feet and going right to the arm. That elbow just hit the mat. Good Lord, Benton Convention Center giving John Skyler the thumbs down. If this was the Roman Coliseum, we'd be calling for the Lions.
Hey, when you do those less than moral things, karma's a thing.
Yes, it is. And once again, this crowd completely behind Mr. Number 1, George South. John probably did not sell any of those Skyler Cage shirts today.
Correct. He probably did not.
Hits the buckle hard, and George right back to the arm. Josh, we talk about it every month. George has got his playbook. He runs his plays, and they get him in the end zone more often than not.
Keep on matriculating down the field. Hank Strang. All my football heads are just like, oh my gosh.
Absolutely. You see the expert control. George South got the fingers locked and has the pressure on the wrist.
Yeah.
If you can control the man's wrist, he's either going to go with you or his wrist is going to snap.
Yeah. Joint manipulation, that's how a lot of MMA and wrestling holds and counters and all that work, is that, you know, your joints only move in certain directions. You know, anybody that's ever hyperextended their knee or twisted their ankle can attest that, you know, when you make it go how it's not designed, it hurts.
George again, keeping control of the wrist.
And what's so funny is that type of move, that knuckle lock, you apply that pressure on the wrist, you make somebody go up on their tiptoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like John Skyler did right there.
Skyler drew back and finally got the cheap shot in right at the waistline. Mr. Number 1, sleeper hold. And it is a hot afternoon in Carolina. Ooh, George counters right back to the sleeper. If you can deprive oxygen to the brain in this hot room, you'll go out.
Or do that and expel all the air from the lungs.
On cover, only got 2.
And you got to think there's, you know, everybody, oh, well, this isn't a championship match or, you know, anything like that. But there's a lot riding on the line here. Bragging rights, you know, if John Skyler's able to pull out this win, you got to think that he's going to be in position for him and Colby Carino to do a little bit more terror here in AML wrestling. George South picks up that win. Does that maybe squash the Carino Skyler, you know, Alexander the Great kind of trying to conquer AML wrestling theory or plan that they have?
That's a great point.
Because it's a lot easier to make demands when you're winning. Possess Brad attitude.
Brother.
Gosh. Did you see his social media?
I did.
On the beach with the championship? What did he call it? His celebration tour?
Says we are living in the Attitude Era. Boy, either one of these men would be a fascinating matchup for the new AML Wrestling Champion. We saw George and Brad duke it out back in Knoxville a couple of months ago.
And we will have Brad Attitude defending his AML Wrestling Championship against Heath later on, as well as Josh Alexander, the current Impact World Champion, taking on Mick Drake. Oh.
Charge into the buckle. Skyler takes him down. Only got 2.
And then, of course, we've got the OGK in the house with Maria Kanellis taking on our AML Wrestling World Tag Team Champions, the Extreme Horsemen. Of course, John Skyler would raise his hand and say, excuse me, sir. We, meaning him and Colby Carino, are the Extreme Horsemen.
Yeah, John Skyler earlier this week said he objects to George using the term family in pro wrestling. Said the only family he has ever found in the wrestling business has been Steve and Colby Carino. Happy birthday to the king of old school, Steve Carino, today, by the way. I wonder if he is maybe watching this match intently. 2 men that he has a lot of respect for, even though they are diametrically opposed.
Oh, I'm sure if he is not watching it currently, somebody has sent it to him. And is like, hey, you know, Steve, check this out. Or you know what? he may have a mole here right now, Facebook Living it to him.
I mean, Colby Carino not scheduled on today's card, but then 2 months ago, John Skyler was not scheduled to be here.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I mean, there's a lot of, a lot of pro wrestling locker rooms. People come in, they leave, sponsors and family and stuff, so you never know.
We're going for the claw. I just took a right hook instead.
A lot of times pro wrestling locker rooms are not just the wrestlers that are on that particular event because, it's a brotherhood. We know people and we work with people and we love people that are in pro wrestling, so we like to see them do well.
I don't love all of them, but I've loved as many of them as I could.
There's a line, for sure. There's a line. There's some I'd rather not, even acknowledge, but,
Skyler standing tall here against Mr. Number 1. Skyler with his hand on the chin of Mr. Number 1, just addressing him like a parent would talk down to a child.
Yeah. You mean to tell me there's not anything personal going on here?
Oh, boy, you heard that one. The sound of that one bounced off the walls of the Benton Convention Center, and it sent Mr. Number 1 to the canvas.
Yeah, it was almost sounded like the crack of a whip popping off the mandible of George South.
Skyler screaming for George to roll over and die. That's in poor taste.
Yeah. But he took his eye off the ball, and George was able to get a toe with the boot in there.
Come on, Skyler. Come out of the corner. Come on.
George freed himself with those big Wahoo-style chops.
Yeah, Mr. Number 1's not going to quit Mr. Skyler. Oh, here we go. Wahoo. Longtime staple here in the Mid-Atlantic. An homage to the late, great Wahoo McDaniel.
The Steamboat chops. Our current AML Wrestling champion felt those back in Moxville from Steamboat himself.
Yep.
Skyler maybe looking to retreat here.
There he goes, trying that timeout thing. I'm telling you, got to make it a rule.
Two master manipulators right here. Sunset flip. George South going for the win with the sunset flip. Skyler trying to maintain his balance. Sits down on the shoulders. Got the rope. Got it.
No! Whoa!
Referee Ben Grayson watched the shoulders of George South. He did not glance to the ropes.
John Skyler picks up the win here at AML Wrestling's Live to Win. And I guess that's what he did here, Brad, and he won.
He did.
Some are going to point out he grabbed the ropes against the rules. Referee didn't see it.
I believe you a kiss, Josh.
That was to me?
I think so.
I mean, I've known him for a while. I didn't know we were like that.
John Skyler steals one.